some to know about the session. We're going to be talking about keyboard shortcuts and a lot of these tips. So if you're not familiar with the symbols, I'll be talking about command, which is this fun little swoopy sort of like interstate switcher thingy. I'll be talking about option, which is this like 3D T, I guess is how I've always thought of it. Won't be talking about caps lock, but that's that symbol. We will talk about shift and control, which is a little caret. And why that is important is I have installed on my computer this little thing that will, in the lower middle of the screen, tell you what keys I have pressed to do things. I'll do my best to speak them out loud, but sometimes I'm just going to do them. So keep an eye down in that lower right of me area if you're curious what I've pressed. All right. So the session's going to take part in 5 sections. We're going to start out talking about navigation. So these are going to be tips about how to navigate through a project. So we are using for tonight our design patterns project from a previous meetup. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. I closed the window. We have a YouTube channel. So if you can't stay for the entire stream, or you want to go back and look through what we talked about, you can come to our YouTube channel. We have all of our meetups posted on it since we have gone with the Twitch online format of our meetup. It is also exclamation point links in chat. I usually upload the slightly edited down versions of the meetup about 2 to 3 weeks after a meetup. I do that because partially time constraints, but also the Twitch VOD will stick around for that first 2 weeks, so you can also check out our Twitch VOD. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to show is open quickly. Small tangent, the tips that we're going to show you today are purely optional. These aren't things that are going to be like, if you don't know how to do this, you can't do X, Y, and Z, or you can't be a professional iOS developer. These are little things that just might speed you up, so you're not clicking through menus, you're not trying to scan long chunks of code. It's also largely going to be around the keyboard, so if you're one of those people that doesn't like to take your hand off of the keyboard and go over the mouse, this will be useful. I have both been and have been toward the person that's like, you're sitting there helping someone code or helping fix a problem, and you're like, oh, if you just did this, it'd be like a little bit quicker. That's kind of the theme of this, but less hopefully less annoying. So not even on our list. The first one that I'm going to show you is Command B. That is for building your project. So maybe you've made a bunch of changes and you just want to make sure it compiles, because like it's Xcode. The autocomplete sometimes fails. The highlighting, syntax highlighting goes away, and you just want to make sure everything's okay. You just hit a quick Command B, and you look up here. It will tell you that it has built the project. That is a replacement for going to the product menu and going to build. So already we know that we are increasing our productivity right there, because I couldn't even find the product menu, let alone find that build was inside of it. Hello, Zev.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. I was just telling chat that not even on our list. We forgot Command B, and we also forgot Command R, which is run, which substitutes for hitting the play button or going product run. I don't know how we missed that.
If speaking of being that annoying person over your shoulder, the one that gets me all the time is stopping the app before you run it again. You can just hit run and it will stop the app for you. And if there's a little dialog box that says, hey, the app is already running, do you want to run it again? And if you want, you can check the don't show this again box. You don't have to, but that's the way I like to roll.
Yeah, I can't remember if I usually turn it off or not, so I'm guessing that I usually do turn it off. Okay, so this is launching the simulator. While it's doing it, the very first thing that's actually on our list is Command-Shift-O, which is open quickly. Open quickly is something I use every single day. I don't know about you, Zev.
So many times.
Yeah, it's a good way to, if you're not entirely sure the name of the file, and so maybe like, oh geez, maybe you know it's a table. You can start typing out table, and oh look, we have post table. Or maybe I'm trying to think about table of rows, and I want to know how that works. It searches your entire project, but also Swift standard library to a degree, and you can find different files and look through them that way. It doesn't have to be the entire name. So I wrote out table. I can write PTC, and it still finds the post table controller. And it might be hard to see on stream, but you can see the P, the T, and the C are all bold. So you can be pretty lazy with how you're looking for things in this.
It'll also search for variable names, including like properties. Like if you search for data source, then it does seem to prioritize types, but then below that you'll see data source on a bunch of both Apple types and I think your types as well.
Yep.
On another really useful thing in the Open Quickly window is that little Swift icon on the right. I'm not sure a lot of people know about that. So search for like UI TVC to get UI Table View Controller. And you'll see it's giving you Objective-C headers. And sometimes that is what you want, but often you want the Swift version. So if you check that, it'll only give you Swift results. Or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the Swift versions of Objective-C things.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's still giving the header files.
Yep. But it's the Swift version, the generated, translated version. The really slow to render version.
Cool. Overlapping with the open quickly, once you're in a file, maybe you get a bug report or someone's telling you, hey, there's an issue on line 40. You can do Command L, type in 40, and it'll take you right down there. I was guessing it's an empty line. But if you miss that, Command L, you type in a line number, and Xcode will automatically jump to it. I use this a lot, again, for bug reports. You get a crash log that says something went wrong in this file at line blah blah blah, and so I might do book view model 5. Nope.
You need a colon.
Colon 5. Thank you. And it will go to that file and it will highlight that line.
The really nice thing about that is that there's like a standard format in like crash logs and just in general sort of a programmer shorthand of file name colon line number. So often you're in a position where you can copy and paste a file and line number and paste it directly into Open Quickly, and it will jump you to the file and the line all in one go.
Yeah. This next one, Zev, if you can talk through it, it is Command-Shift-J.
Yeah, so Command-Shift-J, it works really nicely with Open Quickly. What it does is it takes the file that you're currently typing in, and it shows it in the sidebar. And I wonder if we should be talking about where you can find these in the menus. It's going to be a little tricky because I'm guessing both Matt and I don't really remember where to find these in the menus because once we learn them, we just learn the shortcuts. But conveniently, if you type Command-Shift-J, you'll see the menu flash so you can see which. Yeah, it might not show up well on the stream, but yeah, so navigate and then kind of look for the shortcut. And while we're in here, if you just tap the Option key, you'll see some of these change. That's also a useful tip. Just you can find out what some of the alternate shortcuts are by pressing the Option key, and the menu will show it. But anyway, Command-Shift-J, you found it, Reveal in Project Navigator. So there it is. Yeah, so if you jump to a file and it's like a bunch of folders deep in your project hierarchy and you don't know where you are, Command-Shift-J will jump you right to it. It's especially useful in a project you're not familiar with, because you could hop to some file, Command-Shift-J, see it in the sidebar, and start poking around the other files that are near it in the project. And that's often a nice way to learn a new code base.
Yeah. I do that a lot when I'm learning a new code base, which is also something that's not on our list of things, but I might run an app and look for a header or something that I can find, which we don't really have many headers. But I might look for the posts, and I might do post and look for, okay, so now I'm in this file. What is this post detail controller? And I might Command Option click. Option click. Nope. I don't know.
We have a whole section on this later.
It's actually right now.
Oh, open. Oh yeah. It's Command Control click. They may have changed this.
Did.
Oh no, sorry, that's jumped to definition. We're looking for open in other editor. Command Option Control click. It depends how you have Xcode set up. Also, this is one of the fun things, is there's like a couple different navigation modes. Command Control click. Xcode preferences have a bunch of stuff on this. Which thing are you looking for?
Open another editor.
Yeah, so this is one of those ones that's muscle memory for me anyway. So let me open up a project on my machine. This is, as they say, great television.
The real question is whether or not I'll edit it out for the YouTube video.
So for me, it is Command Option Control click.
Command Option Control click.
On some text in the, yeah.
That's doing it in
all
a
three
tab. Yeah.
So this comes down potentially to, if you go to preferences, I mean, this is also a good lesson. So Command comma, first of all, in any Mac app will open the preferences. And then if you go to navigation, there's a whole bunch of options for how you like to work. And yeah, it was set. Go back, change that back from open in place to open in tabs. This is tab. Yep, that's the same settings I have. So I don't know. Maybe Zoom is messing with the keyboard shortcuts. Play around with all the permutations of Command and Option and Shift. It totally was working for me. So, you know, computers.
Oh.
Did you get it?
Yeah. I had I already had an assistant editor open, and I did the zoom in on just this one thing.
Ah, yeah, the full screen thing. I never used that, so I didn't think to look for it.
Yep.
There's a shortcut for that too. I forget what it is. But I'm sure the interested people in the chat can figure it out. Okay, where were we? Open it, right. So I'll update that in the document. So Command Option Control click.
It was just, it depends on where you're doing it. Option clicking on something in the file navigator opens it. And then all three, yeah. Command Option Control Click.
Yep.
Opens it in the source.
I guess we should also talk about the simpler version. Just Command Click will give you most of the options you need. And something a lot of people overlook is that, first of all, you can type in here. Not that useful on a short menu, but on the Swift UI version, it's useful. But also, you can click on Jump to Definition, but it's telling you right there, Control Command is telling you that Control Command clicking would jump you to definition directly without opening a new window. So that's another good way to learn the shortcuts, as well as just all the navigation stuff is under the Command key now.
Yeah. Our next one is showing the documentation for something. So maybe you're not entirely sure what a UI view controller is. If you hold down Option and click, which I'm sorry the little keyboard shortcut thing doesn't pop up for mouse clicks, but option clicking on something brings up this nice documentation little bubble blurb that tells you what it is, what subclasses it has, or what it's a subclass of, so what superclasses it has, if any, and then you may or may not have some discussion. There are a bunch of little other things that you can put in there, little callouts, but in general you'll have some information about what it does, why it does maybe, or how to use it maybe, things like that.
Stick around to find out how you can put your own documentation in that pop-up.
Yeah.
And if you click down at the bottom, once you have that open, click the little button at the bottom to open the full documentation, which is often much better. The font is bigger, it has a bunch of links, like you can really dig in and read all the discussion, but that pop-up is a nice starting place.
Yeah, this actually mimics the entirety of, like, if you Googled UI view controller and went to Apple's documentation, this is what you would see on the website.
Yep.
And
but this one works when you're on a plane.
Yeah, and that. You can also option double click. Wait, what? Open documentation, option double click. That one, am I doing that right?
That might be, you know what? They might have changed it. We cribbed a bunch of these from an old blog post I wrote back in like Xcode 6, and it's occurring to me that some of those may not be a thing anymore. Yeah, it looks like option double click no longer opens the documentation directly.
Cool. So let's remove that one.
Yeah.
I promise you we did review the list, we just didn't try everything on the list. There is Command Option Shift F, which opens up a find menu in the Find Navigator.
Yep, it's just a quick way to get to project-wide search. It's the analog of Command F for search in file. Option Command Shift F pops you over to the project-wide search, and now you can search for, like, view did load or table, hit return, and you search through the whole project. And a nice thing, if you do a find in page, just like a normal find, Command F. We're gonna, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. We're gonna come back to some extra tips and tricks for that from that project-wide find panel. So we'll leave it there for now. But if you do a find in the file and search for like post, then this is a nice one because it's actually universal to basically all Mac apps. You can click the little next and previous buttons, but you can also hit Command G to go find again, and it will cycle you forward, and Command Shift G to go backwards. So it's a quick way to jump through all the results in a file without having to take your hands off the keyboard.
Yeah. Excuse me. Next is finding callers of something. I actually don't know how to do this one.
So will the command key do it? I forget if it's in the command key menu. So this is, what are all the things that call? Yeah, so callers is there. And let's see where it takes you when you click it. So that shows you things that call this function, which is pretty useful. There's actually another way to get to it, and I think this other menu has a bit more interesting stuff for exploring. I don't know how to describe it, or I don't know what it's called. It's a little button that looks like the Microsoft logo, and it's below the scheme chooser. It's like so hard to describe where stuff is in Xcode. Yeah, that guy. So under there, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff: recent files, local files, counterparts, which used to be more important in Objective-C, but it shows you callers and callees. So callers is going to show you anybody who calls the function your cursor is in, and callees is going to show you all the functions that this current function calls. So basically everything inside it broken down into which functions there are. So that's pretty useful. Callers, especially if you're trying to figure out like what are all the possible places in the app that this function could get run, you can see them there. And a useful tip, if you hold the Option key when you click on pretty much anything in Xcode, it'll throw it over into a second editor so you don't lose your place. And then I thought from here there was a way to keep cycling through the callees or callers, but I don't know that there is, unless it's under the Microsoft button on that window. No, it's not. I don't know if that's still a thing.
Oh, I kind of feel like I know what you're talking about, and I have no idea how to get to it either.
Yep. It's an exercise to the reader if you want to go through old WWC videos and find out where that is.
There's also, yeah, so what's new in Xcode is a good way to find a bunch of these tips. But you can also, which is kind of jumping ahead again, there's a keybind section in the preferences. You can look through these to see what they are, but we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. So that's our navigating section. We're now moving on to editing and formatting. There are so many times in a developer's career that they just don't know what's going wrong with something, and they go to Stack Overflow or they go to a blog post from their favorite blogger, and after so much searching, they find a chunk of code that does exactly what they need it to do, to whatever solves their problem. But as soon as they copy paste it into their Xcode, it just looks like garbage. Some people might save that garbage. Some people might go line by line and correct the indenting. Or if you want to be a little bit more productive, you can highlight the function and do Command I.
Control I.
Control I, excuse me. What did I read it, I do it every day, and I forgot it.
Yeah. These are so ingrained for both of us as muscle memory that like actually knowing which keys are which is a chore.
Yeah.
Control I, indent. Also just throw in there, because it's not in our notes, Command left and right bracket to nudge things in and out. But why would you want to if you can auto indent? Sometimes it's useful. It's useful in like code that's not currently compiling, but yeah, Control I is where it's at.
Yeah, copying and pasting between like Slack or Discord and your project, like the formatting always seems to get messed up. Or maybe I use 2 spaces for my tab, you use 4, and this will fix it for your project. Things like that.
Also, just when you're refactoring, like if you unnest something by removing an if, everything's got to come out. Control I.
So good. Next, it's a little bit of a navigation, but it's mostly used in editing. So maybe you need to go change the name of something and you want to get there quickly. I'm holding down Option, and apparently arrow keys don't show up in this tool either.
Annoying.
But
Option,
I'm holding
left and right arrow.
Option, yes, left arrow to go, and it's going by word or by camel case, depending on how you.
No, just by word. It's going by word, and then so this is a standard Mac shortcut. It works in TextEdit. It works in Safari. So Option left and right go by word, and if you hold Shift, it selects it, which is also cool. But if you use the Control key, Control left and right, it will go by camel case. But this one's a little bit tricky because Control left and right are the default shortcuts for switching spaces in macOS, like virtual desktops. I don't use spaces, so I turn that shortcut off in system preferences. You can go in under spaces in your keyboard stuff. Yeah, I might as well show how to do that.
Yeah, because I don't use them either.
Cool. So let's open system preferences. Go to keyboard. And then under shortcuts. And then is it mission control or launchpad or display or one of those? Yeah, so move left a space, move right a space. If you don't use spaces or you're okay using the trackpad to go left and right, you turn those off. And then control left and right will now take you, it's not going to show up there, but on is bookmarked, it'll jump in between the S and the B. So you can jump by word, which is really cool.
That one's new by me. So good. I often, you brought up the, unnesting code and reindenting it. I often move code up and down. You can run into a lot of race conditions in programming with multiple threads and doing some more advanced things. And sometimes you just need to like reorganize things a little bit to be like, is it a race thing? Like if this is set before that, is that a problem? I do that a lot where I'm sort of like checking things. And so if you hold down Command Option and you do either of the square brackets, you can move a line up or down. So I do that a lot. Or like maybe I did one of the things in Xcode where it auto adds something. So like here, this private initializer is above our variable. Like that's something that I would just quickly move down so that my functions are above, or my variables are above my functions.
It sure beats like selecting the line and trying to figure out if you selected the new line before or after, and yeah, it's better. It's good.
And I believe you can move many lines as well.
Yep, totally. I think we skipped one. Command left and right arrow.
Ah, yes.
To jump the cursor to the beginning and end of the line. And they made a really nice change recently, which is that it jumps it to the first non-space character.
Yes, but you can double tap it if you do want to go to the start of the line.
Yeah. I mean, it's also another good exercise to the reader if you're not familiar with all the Mac text editing keyboard shortcuts. There's so many good ones for moving around by line, by character, by word, selecting, deleting, forward, backward. It's like a really robust set of shortcuts, and they work in basically every app. So if you learn them for, text edit, they'll work for Xcode, they'll work for whatever. So well worth spending a few minutes just learning which, Shift, Option, Control. It's really good. Are they on that page?
They are here. I just wanted I just brought this up real quick in case people are joining us late, so that you see all these weird symbols popping up. This is what they correspond to. The squiggles is command, the 3DT is option, the caret is control, and the up arrow is shift.
You think that's a 3DT? That's fascinating. I always see it as a railroad switcher.
Yeah, like
you have an option of which way to go.
Yeah. It's a little slanted T in my
Also,
eyes.
on newer Macs, they print those on the keyboard, but on older ones, they didn't for who knows what reasons.
Yeah, I didn't know what that symbol was forever because I didn't have a keyboard that did it. Yeah. This is going to be pedantic, but maybe you want to... Maybe you hate the name image, and it just really does not convey this image that you're making. You can hit Command Control E to rename all in scope. I don't even think this is correct, but I don't know. It's a. This is the bookmark image. There you go. Less pedantic.
And the in scope part is important. It's like Smart Find and Replace, where you're not just finding every instance of image. It's basically all the instances of that variable in the file or in the function. That one, there's only one in the file, so it's not gonna work. But yeah, super useful for quick, small renaming. It's not as big as a refactor. It's just a quick little in and out. And in that case, the scope of that variable is everything within that class. So it's renaming everything in the class. So it's really smart about where it picks stuff up.
Okay. Do we have a file that's rather large? This one will do. So you can see we already actually have one. That is our next little tip. Is you can add these little marks in your code. They help with little, or when a file gets large, they help with the navigation. At least for me, I don't know about you, Zev, but I will make a mark for each one of my extensions, or if I'm going through different sections of my code base. So like here, I might do a mark for view lifecycle.
Yep. Yeah, it's I especially like it in Xcode 12 because it puts those lines, so it makes it a little clearer that these are sections. This would probably also be a good time to call out the jump bar, which is that bar across the top, and the thing at the far right. Yeah, it's like design patterns, controllers, post tables. This is the symbol navigator, I believe, and it shows all the symbols in the file, and these marks show up as dividers. If you don't put the hyphen, you won't get a divider, but you'll still get a header. And you can also type in these menus, which is delightful for long files, especially.
Yeah, I use that feature.
Control 6 will bring up that menu. There's a bonus shortcut for you. I never use it just because of who I am as a person, but more power to you. There's a question in the chat.
Yes, SPL9 asks, is there a shortcut for when you type in a method parameters and Xcode autofills in the parameter names? How do I accept it and get to the next line? I'm not entirely sure I understand the question.
Line, yeah. What's confusing me about the question is that normally Xcode autofills everything on one line. You might want to conform your thing to a delegate, and then you'll get an autofill for a delegate method. Yeah, if you conform post table view controller to I've got a good one. Do an extension and conform it to, and SPL9, please let us know if this is what you're asking or if you want to clarify anything. So extend it conforming to UI gesture recognizer delegate. And then in some random method, we're not going to fill in anything. We're just going to call a function. So, I mean, you can write a foo function if you want, and then inside that, we're going to do self dot and do should and see what comes up. We're looking for should recognize. It's just one I know of that happens to be long. Yeah, that one. So hit return. So you're in that first one, and you can type something. Doesn't really matter what. And then you can hit tab to go to the next filled in thing. And if you hadn't filled in the first one, shift tab would bring you back. So if that's what you're looking for, tab will bring you through the autofills, and it will even work across lines. To clarify, how do I accept the autofill parentheses without having to hit tab and manually close the parentheses? Are you talking about?
So here I just hit enter, and it gives you what is suggested.
Yeah, if there's a specific thing we could type that would get us to the situation, it's just there's so many different autofill situations you could be in that it's hard to know exactly which thing. Because is this like for a function, or currently use Control E to get to the end of the line after the parentheses? Is this, sorry, this is kind of back and forth, especially because of the 5-second delay on the chat. Yeah, is it my main question is this for typing a new function or autofilling? Like I think you said an existing function in the first thing. Yeah, if you can maybe provide an example of a specific function where you run into this problem, that would be helpful. I'm thinking it might be with a trailing closure.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, basically, if there's one of those little blue bubbles, you can hit tab to go to the blue bubble, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're asking. Oh yeah, this one has a change handler, so if you hit return, yeah, it jumps you back to the first one, but yeah, you can type stuff there, and then tab will bring you to the next.
And it even goes to the code bubble where I can print hello. And shift tab still works there.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, this format is not very conducive to this kind of like back and forth, and describing code with words is just really hard.
Yeah, but if you're in our Discord, you can send a screenshot to the general help channel, and we will help you out with that after stream.
Nice plug.
Yeah. But back to the little marks and this thing that you had a name for that I don't remember what you said.
The symbol navigator.
Symbol navigator. You can also do uncomment code when I understand what I typed. And in here you can even see your little to-dos. There's also fix me's. And those will show up as little band-aids that you should fix. I use all three of these, the mark, the fix me, and the to-do, very regularly. The format of it is a big gotcha. It does have to be 2 slashes, a space, what it is, so fix me, mark, to-do, in all caps with a colon, and then a space and whatever you want. If you don't do that formatting exactly like that, it does not. Oh, they fixed it. It used to not show up. Now it still does. Huzzah. Ignore that. I love to-dos and fix me's. They're so good. They're nice ways to let you or your team know that, hey, this isn't quite what it's supposed to be. Searchable menus, we kind of covered that with this. You can type in them and it will filter them down. Another thing that I use regularly, because if you don't know, I am on a team that writes libraries, is you can actually make documentation. And Xcode will do it for you by doing Command Option / right? Yeah, because it would fall forward.
And
I'm learning it.
That quick digression / if it fell over would fall forward in the text, and / if it fell over would fall backward in the text.
Yeah, I always mix them up. I'm glad I'm learning. And Xcode will automatically pull out the parameters by the name and give you the little fill-in bubbles, so you can say this function gets you ready for segueing for going to another view controller.
And then you can hit tab.
And this is the segue that is being prepared to go places. The thing that caused the segue to start. And now that you have that typed up, earlier we showed you can option click something, look at documentation. That's a bad
because
example.
It's an override. It's showing you the official Apple documentation.
Yeah,
you got to do it on your own.
We'll do it on this one. Execute some code when we're done fetching. things. Why? I'm not playing music. What is this?
Oh, first of all, we can't see it, but just so it doesn't look like Matt is batting at ghosts, Zoom tries to detect when it thinks you're playing music. It says stuff.
Oh, that's confusing. So now I can option click on my function and it shows me the Apple doc that I just created as if it were Apple's own documentation. If we had parameters to our function, they'd also be listed there out in parameters, and you can actually get a full list of different callouts that can go into those comments in this markup formatting reference. Inserting callouts. Not everything in this list can be done inside an Xcode project. Some of them are specific just to playgrounds, which is really frustrating because they're the great ones. But you can go through this list of things and attention. So I can do attention. Hi, chat. And that will show up in here as well.
You can also use regular markdown formatting for things like bold and italics.
Sweet. Okay.
So a quick extra thing there, if you pull out the right-hand sidebar with Option Command 0 or click the button on the far upper right, and then you go, actually I guess it's Option Command 3 or click the question mark button. That's quick help, and now you don't have to option click. If you happen to have that open, anything you click on will immediately show you the documentation, which is nice if you're planning on doing a bunch of reading. You can just click around in your doc, in your code, and it will just show up. So whatever your cursor is on will show you, like, yeah.
Cool. I never have that window open, so I did not know about that one. Balance delimiter command.
I think this one's mine.
Yeah.
I'll give it a try. Baby's being a little restless, so we'll see how it goes. There's a neat feature in Xcode where you can double click a curly brace or a bracket or parenthesis, and it will select through to the closing one. You can also click on it and it will just highlight, which is a nice way to just kind of get your bearings, especially if your code isn't indenting. See previous tip. It's annoying to have to take your hands off the keyboard and go and find, precisely click on that brace. So there's actually a command for this called balance delimiter. And I don't know what menu it's in, but you can go find it under the help menu. If you search for balance delimiter, if we haven't talked about searchable help menu, that might be, okay, it's under editor selection balance delimiters. But I like to assign a keyboard shortcut to it because it's so useful. This will be a good demonstration of how to set up a custom key binding. So you go into Xcode preferences with command comma, go to key bindings and search for balance. And then for some reason it shows you a bunch. There's a bunch of different contexts where it's technically separate shortcuts, but they'll all bind to the same key, which is cool. So double click on the right in the invisible text field. I like Command Shift Space for this one. It totally is up to you, whatever you can kind of figure out, and it will just show up in there, and then click out. Don't hit Escape because Escape will then bind Escape to it, and there you can see it bound to all of them. So now, if you click inside, let's go up a little bit to line 38. So you've got that 4 cell. Click inside the 4. So Command Shift Space will jump you out to the parentheses, and then again out to the curly braces, and then again out to the full curly braces for the class. So wherever you are, just keep hitting it until you've moved out to the scope you want to be on. And then you can do something like Command / to comment this whole section if you want. for example. So really nice way to delete, select, comment whole chunks. I use it all the time. It's probably my go-to, like, hey, you want to see something cool in Xcode you've probably never seen before? It's that one.
Multiple cursors. So in the same vein, a quick way to edit multiple things at once is to hold down Control Shift and then click for all the different lines. So maybe I want these all to be variables instead of constants. I can do multiple things and move that cursor around. So as long as the insertion point is always the same, it is a quick way to edit multiple things. You can also do Control Shift up and down arrow to do it if you don't want to take your hands off the keyboard. Same thing, you get the multiple cursors. Another thing I use a lot for this exact example, where I just need to edit a bunch of variables all at once. For whatever reason that I do that a lot, which is weird. It doesn't have to be all in a line, so I can do all over the place, and it will hold its distance from the other pointers. I don't know why you would ever do that, but it is possible. I guess for this as, maybe I don't want them all to be as question mark. I just want it to be as. There you go.
You're not going to leave it there, are you?
I was going to, but I feel like you got something.
You're missing the coolest part. Reselect your 3 lets. So two things, actually. One, you can hold the Option key to drag out basically a bounding box around text, just like you would in like a graphics program. So that's pretty cool. But then all of the text navigation shortcuts that we were talking about before still work. So if you want to go over to the equals sign, you can hit the Option right arrow. That'll jump by word to the right. And now you're at the equal sign, even though it was a different distance for each one. It doesn't always work, depending on, you know, if there's like commas on some lines and not others, but in general, all the shortcuts work. So Option, Control for jumping by camel case is magical. Command left and right to jump to the beginning and end of the line, and it will even do it on lines that don't start in the same place. So yeah, like very, very powerful. You can also copy and paste. Actually, if we could whip up a quick, actually, can I control your screen for a second?
Yeah, can you request it?
We'll see if this works with flailing baby arms. But like the example I would normally use this for is like, let's say I turned my keyboard off because of aforementioned flailing baby arms. Okay, there we go. So let's say we have struct with so if we had some properties, and now let's say I was writing, let's say, an initializer, and so two things. First of all, I can right click, refactor, generate member-wise initializer, and that's neat. But let's say I couldn't quite use that because for whatever reason I needed to do something that didn't cover. You know, I'm just writing some kind of function that takes all 3, let's say. You know, do stuff, and I want all 3 of those, so I can Option drag and do Shift, Command Shift right arrow is going to select to the end of the line, copy, and then I'm going to go down here. Oops. I'm going to paste and type a comma, and then function delete to forward delete. And then I'm gonna, here I need to do that one and Control Shift double click this one to select. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, I'll click here, Control Shift click here. Oh, this might be Zoom messing with my ability to click things. Yep, yeah. I can't Control Shift click over Zoom. Can you Control Shift click there?
Control Shift click.
Yeah, so now I can Shift Option left arrow. Well, I can't, but maybe.
What are you doing? Option Shift arrow?
Option Shift left arrow to select the space. Oh, and then Option Shift right arrow, once for the word, once for the comma. no option the second time. And then shift right arrow to unselect that, and then hit space to make those both a space. And then, delete the space up front like that. So, not worth it for 3 things, but, if you had a big stack of parameters, then it's a quick way to take a bunch of things and like wrap them and unwrap them. There's like extensions to do that, but you can do a lot of it yourself, which is cool.
I would also put out there that another reason to do the multiple insertions is if you want to do equals, equals, and then something.
Do self dot thing equals thing. So to get like.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Option delete will do it by word, which is exactly what you want in this case. I mean, like with all 3 selected. Can I do this one?
Yeah. I don't know if you can with the zoom, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, let me try it out. So, oops. Okay. Right. So let's say I wanted to do these, so I can go here, then go. So Control Shift down arrow, Option right arrow to get this, and then Option delete to delete a word, and then self dot. This would be more impressive if these were different lengths. So let's just pretend they were. So Option right arrow to go there, and then Shift Option left arrow to select a word to the left, copy, right arrow, Command Shift right arrow to select to the end of the line, delete, and then equals, and then I'm going to paste, and it will paste the 3 things that I just copied.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. So yeah.
I also do that often.
Yep.
Just my fingers weren't doing it tonight.
In the chat, Command F supports regexes as well. Yeah, we're actually going to talk about some advanced find stuff in a couple more sections. But yes, you can do regex find and replace, which is pretty cool.
Cool. And the last thing from this section, which is about editing, it doesn't come on by default, but there is something called code folding that I love to use. I don't often use the keyboard shortcuts for it, but if you turn it on and maybe you no longer want to look into a function, you get this nice little bar here that you can click and collapse things. And to uncollapse it,
I don't know if it's on by default anymore, but it's in preferences under editor.
It for sure is not, because I took such joy when I was able to come and turn it on.
It was gone for a whole version of Xcode when they rewrote the editor in like Xcode 10 or something. I think, display code folding ribbon second from the top. Also, line numbers comes on by default now, but if you have a version of Xcode with it not on, definitely turn it on, because it makes it so much easier to talk about code, because I can say like, look at what's on line 34, and that's so much easier than any other way of doing that.
Yeah. But there is also shortcuts for it. I don't think it'll work because I have an extension that changes how my... I have a program called Spectacle that lets me move my windows around, and it overrides what code folding keyboard shortcuts would be. But it is Command Option left and right if you don't have Spectacle turned on.
Also, Spectacle is deprecable. If it's deprecated, you should use the successor called Rectangle.
Oh, good to know. I'll put that in a different window. Spectacle. Yeah. It showed me a bunch of glasses. Moving the program counter. So Zev and I actually debated on whether or not to include this one.
It's more like well, Matt claims to actually use this. I have never met anybody who has regularly used it. It's more like it kind of opens your mind to know that it exists and is possible.
Yeah.
feel free to git throw away all the things, because we're going to need to actually run the app to do this.
Yeah. I don't know if there's actually like a reasonable way to show it in this project.
Sure there is. Yeah, in that if right there. So move the program counter so that instead of adding a bookmark, we skip it, or instead of removing, and then show that it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. This is that don't ask again thing that Zev was talking about earlier. It was asking me if I want to stop. Of course I want to stop, so I just hit run. So this is a post detail.
I'm gonna mute my video for a second, but I'm still here.
Mm-hmm. So if you've checked out our session on debugging that I think we have on YouTube, you can use these controls to step in and over and around things. But you can also use this green bar to move the actual point of execution. This is called moving the program counter. It'll ask you whether or not you want to move it.
Please don't ask again on this one. It's very dangerous. I mean, you can, but YOLO.
I do this if like I'm down here and I wanted to go back and check the state of the program back here. But it sounded like you had something in mind for this.
See, it doesn't back up your state. Like the variables are still the variables, but like if you mutate a variable on line 33, moving the counter back to line 30 won't unmutate the variable. But what you could do is, let's say you just wanted to skip this logic for whatever reason. You were like in the middle of a run. You don't want to, comment it out and rerun it, but you want to skip that whole block of code. You can just drag the green thing and then hit continue. And then you get a crash. So, use with care. It won't always work. I don't know why that happened. Maybe you jumped around too much, but.
No, I think that this function probably requires that we had set the image.
Oh.
Or have a bookmark.
But it's, it's possible. It kind of reminds you like, oh yeah, underneath all this magic and flashy animation, this is all just a computer doing one math operation at a time. If you'll excuse me, I got to step away for a minute and deal with some baby stuff.
Sure.
And I will be back.
Another way that I do use it is I'll have like a moment. And so, I'll kind of be stepping over and be like, what just happened there? And I'll bring it back up and I'll step back through it. That replay, honestly, is how I more often use it. I'm sort of like inspecting things and reading the logic and, printing out things as I'm going and just like doing a bunch of head scratching. This next one I also do a lot. I do a lot of debugging. You can right click on a breakpoint and edit it. And this is a useful thing that has a lot of ability to it. So you can give it a name. I don't ever really do that. You can give it a condition. So is bookmarked equals false. So now with that condition, this breakpoint will only hit. Sweet, didn't break it that time. If something is not bookmarked. No, should be equals. Sorry, been a very long day for me. So we should see it break. Oh, it's happening when the break mark is there. Or excuse me, the function's called when we tap the bookmark. There we go. So it did not stop there because in this case our bookmark is not equal to false. It is true. So we went straight down to update image. This is useful if you are trying to debug a for loop, for instance, and there's a bug on the 100th item in your for loop and you don't want to sit there and continue and continue and continue through all 100 or 99 things getting ready for your 100th, you can also say ignore a number of times. So maybe I have a bug where it only breaks on the third time that I bookmark something. You can see those first few times I clicked it, nothing happened, but finally it broke because I hit it the fourth time. You can also add actions. Printing out the variable is something I do often. So you can also print things like a log message. The value of is bookmarked equals and it's got this little syntax that it helps you out with here. And then you can click this automatically continue after evaluating. And so now if I continue along, you can see it's printing out in the console the value of is bookmarked is equal to true is equal to false. Doing that helps with debugging too. So if you don't want to go back and forth waiting for your breakpoint, typing PO blah blah blah, you can just have that. And I had the automatically continue after evaluating checked. So this breakpoint isn't actually stopping or breaking the program. It is just continuing to do the thing that I set it to do, which is print the value of the variable. You can also tell it to speak. I don't often use this, but it can be fun.
The value of is bookmarked equals false. The value of is bookmarked equals true.
I guess that's useful if you don't want to read the console. You can click on breakpoints to enable them, disable them. And then also in this bookmarked menu, you can do it here. You can also drag them away. You can also drag them away to get rid of them. Not on, I want to keep that one. Not on our list of things, but that's a nice little helpful thing. There's also a tool here called view debugging or debug view hierarchy that not many people know about, surprisingly. It is a very, very, very useful debugging tool that we have used a number of times in our live streams to figure out what is going on with things. This is actually not a good screen to show it off on. There we go. So it pauses the program on the current state of the screen, and it shows you all of the rendered UI. And if you click and drag, you can turn the UI and you get a nice little Z indexing. This slider over here can expand or tighten that Z indexing. I never know why random things like this pop out way further. If anyone does know, I'm very curious to hear about it. The view debugger also gives you the entire hierarchy laid out in how it's nested as well. And you can click on things. You can not click on the assistant editor, but click on the thing that opens the right panel. And you can investigate values of the things. So here I've clicked on the object inspector and it shows me the entire label. It's massive, so I'm just going to hide that real quick, but it does tell me a good deal of information about what is going on in the UI there. Gets the memory address for the object, talks about whether or not the user interactions are enabled. If you have accessibility set, which we do not, it tells you that information. What's something that's a little bit more interesting? This button shows you the image. It shows you content insets. It usually shows dimensions. It's not showing them correctly. They're listed out. But yeah, that's a good way to try and figure out what's going on. You can also click through this list to get to things. This is the UI table view, so we can minimize that and we can look through to our detail view, which I don't know where it's at in this list of all the things. There it is. You can also click through here to get to the things like the button, the header label, and all of that. Incredibly useful when you're trying to figure out why things are the way that they are or aren't the way that they're supposed to be. Other fun things that are in here, you can click on this button to show what's cut off. And so you can see the table cell dividing lines actually go like way off the screen for whatever reason. I believe this one shows the auto layout. Yeah, it shows the constraints. So you can see we now have this little strut here holding up, showing where the auto layout is. I actually don't think we made this view with auto layout, but that's cool. This button goes between being all exploded out and more collapsed. And I don't know that we set this up for light mode, dark mode. Oh, it's showing this background. Okay, so yeah, that's the debug menu. Super useful. Next is code coverage. I also don't believe that this has unit tests in it. It does not. It doesn't have good unit tests in it. Did we rename client? We don't even have client? So the first tip that we have here is turning on code coverage, which is in your scheme. If you go, I guess I did that kind of quickly. If you go click on the name of your project here, which is your scheme, you can go edit your scheme. And if you click on the test one, there is an option for gathering code coverage. And if you can specify some targets are all targets. In our case, we only have the one target, so we're going to do all. And now if I run my tests, and I get rid of my code that doesn't exist, so we're collecting the code coverage. I need to now show it. We get this nice little ribbon. So in editor, select code coverage. I'll have to rerun the test again. Sorry about that, chat. We should get this nice little ribbon that will have different colors about whether or not the code is covered. There we go. So you can see this line of code was executed once. It gets green because that's good when code is executed in testing. Everything else gets red. If you do unit testing in your projects, which we highly suggest that you do, turning on code coverage lets you see where all you're just not testing things. And if code coverage is important to you, which it debatably should be, this is a good way of making sure everything is covered. So here you can see we've got a better file. It's because we changed client to networking controller. Where we have covered this specific line 27 times. It's because it's an array, so it is looping over that a bunch of times with our compact map. The red, again, we've never executed that line. This little candy stripe one is saying that you have sometimes but not always executed that line, or you haven't executed it enough, or like you've gotten to it but you haven't gone into it. It's a better way to phrase it. So if you noticed, I ran the tests by going into the run menu. There is a keyboard shortcut for it because this is a night about keyboard shortcuts, mostly. Command U will run all of your tests. Unfortunately, we only have the one test, so it's kind of pointless here. Let's see, I'm going to add a quick additional test. So it's stupid, pedantic, 3 is not equal to 2, little test. And if I hit Command U, it will run all of my tests. If I have multiple test files, it will run every single one of them. Maybe I'm only working on this 3 is not equal to 2 test. I can click this little diamond and it will run it. Or you can do Control Option Command G. And so instead of clicking that diamond each time I want to see if my tests pass, let's make this one fail. It's running just the one test over and over again. Or rather, it runs whatever you ran last over and over again. And so in this case, I'm running the one test. And you can see it did not affect this previous test, the test client. That one stayed green. And I can hit Command G as many times as I want, and it's only going to ever run the last test that I ran. Again, if you have multiple files, you can run all of them with the diamonds at the top, and then hit Command G, and it will rerun all of them. Or I can hit Command U and do the whole project. I feel like there was one more that was in that. Run test cases where the caret currently is. So if I only want to test here, it was Command Option Control U. Doesn't seem to be working. Not sure about that one. Command Option Control U will run the test case where the caret currently is. Yeah, not sure why that one's not working. Okay. Oh boy. Sev, are you here? I'd love for you to talk about the next two. Okay. So these next two come from our former co-organizer, Sean Olszewski. via his Twitter. If you don't know Sean, he's super into testing. He has this tip, remembering that disabling the debugger in your scheme within Xcode will make your apps and tests launch faster when working within Xcode. If you're just trying things out and won't be stepping through the code or looking for stack frames, turn it on. It makes life better. That is especially helpful in CI setups, because obviously you're not going to be stepping through the code in CI. Nicely, the command line version of running build and test automatically doesn't enable it for us. But if you are doing things manually, like Sean said, make sure you have tests selected in your scheme, you can turn off the debug executable, and these tests run super fast because there's only 2 of them, but they probably just ran even faster because we turned that off. Definitely if you have a larger test suite, definitely if you have a larger app, it does make it faster. Also from Sean, from his Twitter, if you're annoyed by your tests stopping because they crashed and Xcode is showing the culprit, uh-oh, that's the same URL. Okay, I'll read it. Annoyed by your test stopping because they crash and Xcode is showing you the culprit, turn off the debugger for just your tests. Xcode and Xtest work together and to restart your tests for you and collect info about the crash. That's what I just did. Okay, but yeah, great tip from Sean. Definitely sped up our test suite in larger test suites. The global hour. I've used it to be faster as well. Okay, we're moving on to our miscellaneous section. You might have noticed when I ran my tests, I believe the sound comes over Twitch, but if it didn't, there's a little right there for our successful test and a little right there for our failing tests. The way that I was able to do that was by editing my behaviors in the preferences. And so I do this on every computer I ever work on. I will go into the behaviors down to the testing section, and when my tests succeed, I play a happy noise, a little ping, and unhappy noise, a little basso. Yeah, I don't like the new basso on Big Sur. These noises changing. I'm probably gonna have to go edit these. I've also in previous projects set it up so that, you know, maybe you have a project that takes a very long time to build, maybe like 20 minutes. I would go and have it announced to me when the build succeeds or when the build fails. Let's see if I can get an example.
Build succeeded.
There you go. That way, you know, if you're doom scrolling on Twitter waiting for your build to finish compiling, you'll have that nice little voice tell you that your build succeeded.
I don't think we're hearing the voices on the chat, but they're there. I mean, on this.
It should come across Twitch. I don't think it comes to you.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
If it's not on Twitch, it will probably be in the YouTube video. Zev, I know that you said you also have other things that you like to do with your behaviors. Also, welcome back.
Thank you. Actually, I don't do that much with them. I've seen some cool uses, like when a breakpoint is hit, which, what do they call that? Generates, yeah, I forget where. Probably up higher. It's like debugging starts. I don't know. It's one of them. Oh, when running pauses. then you can show the debug now. I mean, it already does some of that, but you can do more. You can open a new tab called debugging with everything set up the way you like it. I don't tend to work that way, but there's definitely a lot of power there.
I have in the past also set it up so that when testing starts, I will hide the debug navigator.
Sure.
And I can't do anymore. Just because like this gets big, or like if I'm printing out a bunch of things and I'm running tests, I just want this to disappear for me. I've since stopped doing that, but look through these menus. There's some cool little automations you can set up. And our very last tip and trick that we have planned is the advanced search using find and replace regex's filter project folders. Zev, if you can lead this, I need to get some water desperately.
Sure thing. So like there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do over here in the find navigator, and we're not going to cover all of it. I don't know all of it, but I know there's a lot. So I can show you a couple of things. So we already showed you Option Command Shift F. There we go. Wow. Keyboard. There we go. I left my keyboard off. Okay, so I can find bool, but this found 3 bools and 1 random thing in the project. So I can change this to match case. And I search for lowercase bool. So there we go. Uppercase bool just finds that. Let's say I want, see, I'm gonna have to find, oh, here's a good example. So let's say I want to find post, and that's going to find post in, post.title, post description label. Let's say I don't want to find things that involve post. I literally just want to find things called post. I can change from text containing to text matching word. And now it will only find things that are post and then have either punctuation or spaces on either side. So it's like a regex, but it's a really convenient, like, I don't want to write a regex, I just want to find words. Also starts with and ends with. Very useful for that. By the way, if you're ever searching and it doesn't come up with what you expect, look at these 3 things. Find text containing is the default, and that's usually what you want. And if something gets changed to like references or definitions, or like if any of this stuff gets changed, you're going to get some really weird results or no results, and you're going to be very confused. So yeah, check there. So we were talking about regexes. Let me see if I can think of a good use case. Also, if you have favorite tips for this panel in particular or anything, feel free to throw them in the chat. We can do a kind of bring out your dead segment at the end.
There is one that I've got that I don't know many people know. So if you're going through this list of all the posts that you search for, and maybe you don't care about what's in the bookmark controller, you can do the left and right arrow to collapse them. So I do that a lot, where like I'm looking for something specific, I don't know what it is, and I know that I don't want these.
Oh, I can do you one better.
Do it.
I mean, yes, that's good, and that's probably a good first approach, but like, let's say you definitely know you don't want any of these, you can hit delete, and it will actually remove them from the search results until the next search.
Yo, I did not know that one.
It looks like you can also filter, which I'm guessing is like a search on your search. So like, I only want to find things involving posts that also have title in them. It'll further filter them down. This is another, like, if you don't see what you expect over here, look down here and see if you have some random search saved from before.
Oh, geez, that's gonna be behind me. Hold on. There we go.
Oh, yeah. There's this little bar at the bottom called filter. It's useful over here. The time I most accidentally leave something in here is if I'm in the view or memory graph debugger and I search for a memory address, it stays till the next run, which is the world's least useful feature because memory addresses change from run to run. So yeah, we should file a radar. But anyway, back in the find navigator. Yeah, so regular expressions, I mean, this isn't a session on regular expressions, so if you're not familiar with them, I encourage you to do a little reading on them, and then don't like back away too quickly because they are actually pretty cool. So regular expressions let you sort of describe searches in text for things like, a digit, 3 punctuation marks, a lowercase letter or space, any character up to a new line. Like, you can very precisely describe patterns in text and then search for those patterns. So let's say, here's an example. Let's say I wanted to find anything that I'm ever looking for in brackets. So I want to find, open bracket, any text, close bracket, for whatever reason. I can't think of a good reason, but let's try that. So I'm going to change from find text to find regular expression. And then they used to give you some utilities for like inserting patterns, but now they're just like, look, you're on your own. Oh, by the way, this little magnifying glass here, you can get your recent searches, which is really useful. So I'm going to muddle my way through this. So I think if I just do an open bracket, I don't think that will work because, yeah, it says that's not a valid regular expression because a bracket is a special character in regular expression. So I think I have to / escape it. So that found all the open brackets. And then I'm going to find, it's either .star or .plus. I can never remember, but in this case, it'll be fine. It's just any character. Oh, actually, it does matter. See this result here, which has bracket. I do want to find that. So I want to find any character 0 or more times, which is .star, right? Because .plus. Oh, actually, I haven't finished the regex, so I don't know if that was valid. Now I'm going to do a close bracket. Okay, yeah, so it missed my empty array example. So I want to do .star instead of .plus because that's 0 or more times instead of 1 or more times. Yeah, now I found my empty array. So there I found that. And then let's say, let's switch to find and replace. This is where stuff starts to get really interesting. Let's say I wanted to replace everything I found inside of square brackets with foobar. So I can put parentheses around this. Actually, I want to put, oh, I can't undo in there. Okay, I'm going to put, also, this is really tiny. I'm sorry, like, this is probably hard to read. Let me type my regular expression here in a comment and make this bigger, Command plus and minus to make text bigger. Just so you can see what I'm typing, and then I'll move it. So I want to use what's called capture groups. Again, this has nothing to do with Xcode. This is just regular expressions, but it's kind of neat. So I'm going to say, find me, the first bracket is a capture group. And then I don't care about the stuff in the middle because I'm going to be replacing it. And then the end bracket is the next capture group. And those will be available in the replace as like $1 and $2. So I want to, I'm going to take that and paste it in here. And then replace with, so find is that, replace is, so I want to replace this with $1. I think this is right. I think they're one index, but we'll find out. I don't do this that often. So the stuff in the first capture group is $1, and then I'm going to do the text foobar, and then the second capture group is $2. So what I'm expecting this to do is like, I'm expecting to find, array some index, and I'm expecting this to turn into array foobar. And I realized that I could just replace this with bracket foobar bracket. So it's maybe not that impressive with a demo, but it still gets the point across, I think. So here we go. Let's try the replace $1 foobar $2. Paste that in here, and let's hit return, and it will do the find. And then I forget if there's a way to get a preview of what the replace will be. So
I don't believe so.
And also it's going to find the stuff in my comments. So that'll be interesting and recursive. But let's try it out. I'm going to hit replace all. And yep, there it goes. It replaced even the empty one because it got the first capture and second capture. So obviously the whole project is broken now. But, regular expression find and replace, very powerful. If edit in scope doesn't work for you, if refactor doesn't work for you, if you're doing some sort of big, bulk name change and it can't be described as a simple find and replace, you can use regular expressions to, change out part of a word if it's bracketed by some other word, like some pretty powerful stuff.
Also, with the find and replace or just regular find, Xcode defaults to finding across the entire project or workspace if you're using workspaces.
Ooh. Yeah, good call.
And clicking on that, you can then filter out to specific folders. So maybe we only want to fix the foo bars here. We're now only doing it in our controllers folder.
Yeah, and I don't use this that often, but I feel like I should, that you can save these scopes. So I can make a new scope and say, you know, my models, and I'm going to search in, oh, you could search just in the SDK, like in the Apple stuff if you wanted to. That's kind of neat. But I'm going to say search in my project, or search in my project and the iOS whatever SDK. Like, I'm not going to do that right now, but you could. And then all of these conditions are met. You could say file name contains this. You can, this is cool. Apple always does this on these little like logical builder things. You can hold the option key to get a sub nesting of like none, all, any, like all these complicated Boolean things. You can really tightly scope it. Like, I want to look at my models for things that are not codable, like, you know, really fine tune it. I've never actually used this in a project, but it always seems like it would be a good idea.
Cool. Yeah, we've covered our list. I don't know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just because I forgot to fully mention it before, and it is useful. Command 1 through 9 will get you these guys over on the left, the navigators. So command 1, command 2, command 3. I should wait for them to. Yeah, command 2, command 3, command 4, all through these. And if you don't know what they're called, you can hover over them and see their names. And then command option does the same thing on the right. So command option 1. Well, command option 0 will show and hide this, which is also useful, but command option 1, command option 2, command option 3 will cycle through these guys. So just useful quick navigation tips.
Cool. So yeah, that's our session tonight. Thank you all for coming and watching. Thank you all for watching this later on YouTube if that's where you're watching.
Let us know in this, if you join the Discord, please join the Discord, just Discord. And if you do, let us know which one of these is your favorite, which one you find yourself using the most, or if you learned something you didn't know about, which one like changed your Xcode life the most.
Or if you have questions about something we covered, maybe we didn't go deep enough into how you can make your own documentation nicer, or how you can make your own custom keyboard shortcuts.
For sure. And if you catch the video later, if you missed a shortcut, you'll be able to, you know, slow it down and see what we were doing.
So yeah, again, I want to thank you all, and thank you, Zev, for always showing up and always correcting me when I'm wrong. I really appreciate it. I want to make sure I'm putting out the right information to the world. Chat, thank you for your questions. Hope to see you in the Discord, and hope to see you next month for the next one.